Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my presentation. My name is Anna Fisher, and the topic of my presentation today is The Lightning Thief, written in post-modern period time. Has any of you ever had a difficult time understanding Greek mythology? Do you get confused with all the different gods? Who has read a book with Greek mythology and just didn't understand it? The reason that the topic is useful for you is because it's written in our time. Books are easier to read and understand during this time. Learning about the gods can be very confusing with the books that are written in earlier times. So today we're going to talk about three things. These are: first, I will define what American literary postmodern literature is. Second, I will explain some of the history behind the American literature period. And finally, we're going to look at a hero, the Lightning Thief, authored by Rick Warden in the year 2005. So due to the limited time that I have, 3 to 5 minutes, I request that you ask questions at the end of the presentation. First, I will summarize the literary period. The postmodernism period of American literature is between the 50s and the present time. People began living life as the media portrayed it rather than living on their own. Authors wrote with different styles, mixing fantasy with nonfiction, and then there were more narratives with no heroes. And some of the authors that wrote during this time is Catch-22, written by Joseph Howler, Thomas Pynchon, who wrote Gravity's Rainbow, Infinite Jest, written by David Foster Wallace, and House of Leaves, written by Mark Z. Danielski. Now we move on to the second point, which is about the historical period. The history of postmodern period mainly begins in the 50s. Postmodernism is an artistic and academic movement that emerged during the 60s and the 70s. As a successor to modernism, postmodernism rejects many of the fundamental assumptions of Western civilization since the Enlightenment period of the 18th century. People had lost faith in politics and moral authority. Artists were getting away from geometric shapes and were drawing more abstract. During this time, there were new ways to represent the world. There were televisions and film, which soon after came sound and color. And then pop culture and media advertising had changed the postmodernism period. So the world we know now may be and most likely be different tomorrow. The last point that I want to talk about today is about Percy Jackson being a hero. So he's a literary hero who was created by Rick Warden in 2005. Percy's a 12-year-old boy with dyslexia and ADHD who had been expelled from every school he has ever attended. When troubled student Percy Jackson vaporizes his math teacher on a class field trip, he begins to suspect that his life is not what it seems. He discovers that his lifelong reading and attention troubles are all signs that he is a half-blood child of the Greek god Poseidon. He later learns that he is the son of Poseidon. After a summer training session with other demigods and Chiron the Centaur, he is asked to save the world by retrieving the stolen thunderbolt, which he has been accused of stealing. He sets off on a cross-country quest to LA, which is the entrance to Hades, and his friend Grover, the faun, who is a half-goat, and Annabeth, a child of Athena. Zeus wants the thunderbolt back by solstice, which is June 21st, so that before Zeus will cause a war between all the gods. This only gives Percy 10 days to get from LA to New York, which he can't fly because if he flies, then he has more accident. The god can get him up in the air, so he's got to stay in land. So along the way, where modern life and mythology intersect to create both humor and excitement, Percy will come to know his father, Poseidon, rescue his mother, and discover that he has what it takes to be a hero. Ultimately, Percy learns to trust his friends and his abilities, and to choose love over despair. In conclusion, in this presentation, my objective was to demonstrate how students do not need to read the traditional old books to learn Greek mythology. You can read a modern book and learn about the Greek gods in a fun, creative way. Also, how young readers can relate to Percy as a hero. I have covered 3 main points. First, I defined the literary period. Second, we talked about the history surrounding this period. And finally, we discussed an important literary hero of this time. I hope you have found this presentation useful. Thank you very much.